While there tends to be acknowledgement of certain imperialist actions, such as the invasions of Iraq and Afghanistan, the sanctions on Cuba, and maybe CIA coups in the 1960s, 70s, maybe even 80s, there fails to be any acknowledgement of dozens of other current imperialist wars, sanctions, economic sabotage, peacekeeping missions, currency traps, and debt traps going on all around the globe. For those who think, for instance, that Gaddafi was an evil tyrant who needed to be taken out for the sake of the Libyan people, I recommend you start viewing the news with this definition of Western imperialism in mind. Because in 2011, when NATO sent their air forces into Libya, one of their first actions was to bomb a factory making concrete piping for the Great Man-Made River Project, which is a massive pipeline providing 70% of Libyans with their water from a deep underground reservoir. And then they proceeded to bomb segments of the pipeline itself. And when I say this pipeline is massive, I mean it's the largest irrigation system in the world, per the Guinness Book of World Records from 2008. So this was a Gaddafi project that had taken decades to construct. It was already providing drinking water to the nation, to Libya, and they were just 4 years away from completing their fifth and final phase, which would have created large-scale agricultural production all throughout Libya. Not only that, but Gaddafi wanted to send Libyan engineers out as consultants to countries such as Egypt, Sudan, and Chad in order to eventually green their deserts as well. Because those four countries are all sitting on top of a massive water reservoir 500 meters below the surface. Meaning Gaddafi was going to completely transform the region into a breadbasket. But at this point, that'll never happen, and the infrastructure of the pipeline within Libya itself is deteriorating every year, ever since NATO took Gaddafi out. And Libyan cities are now dealing again with drinking water difficulties for the first time since the Great Man-Made River Project went online. Still think that NATO mission was for human rights? It's like that in almost every situation you come across in the news. Everything you see occurring out there in the world will start making a whole lot more sense once you realize that it likely has something to do with the Western clique attempting to assert its dominance over other nations.